there won't be default here and there. But for now, most of them, they are just interested in what they will get after it, because they know through construction, you can make money. But making money without doing the right thing is the bad side of it. So we encourage them to use professionals in all their work. Then we are also recommending to the government that this registered reader, they should be made to bring in more of their developers, contractors to register with them, so that we can know who is who. And then through that medium, they can be sanctioned when there are issues relating to collapse of building. Then the local government, in the existing regional planning law, the local government has a role to play when it comes to development control activities in the local government. That one is not happening now. So we are suggesting that that aspect of it should be highlighted, and then let them be part of the process. The more the merrier. So that in each of the local government, if you have monitoring, effective control, then everybody will be able to be interested. The member of the public should be interested in what is going on around them. When you see a development going around your place, you should make a call to the appropriate agency or to us to alert us. Somebody has started a foundation there. I don't know what you want to build. So that just don't wake up one morning and you find a cinema house behind your house. So we need to be more aware. We need to be part of the process so that we can all work together to ensure that we reduce the incidence of collapse of building. Then the Standard Organization of Nigeria, there's need for them to be proactive and ensure that any building material that is substandard are not allowed in our markets. They have a lot to do with that. A lot of monitoring work, collaboration, and cooperation with relevant agency will do the magic for us. Because we need to ensure that we are having quality material to build with. There will be difference between 16 mm and 10 mm. And if you go to the market, they now sell 10 mm or 12 mm for you at 16 mm. And if you build a house on that with that, less quality, then the stability of construction is not certain. In general terms, I want to say that the issue is multifaceted, and it affects not only the professionals. It affects me, it affects you. What we are saying in essence is that we should all work together as a team to see this collapse of building as a challenge, a monumental one that we need to face squarely to ensure there's reduction in the space of this collapse of building.
Yeah, Mr. Yusuf, your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf. I know you have more to say, but we are time constrained. Let's take the next speaker, Mr. Jumos Suleiman from ICPC.
Good afternoon, distinguished participants. The topic given to me is anti-corruption measures and infrastructure projects, the Nigerian experience. Or do we say the ICPC experience? When ICPC started tracking projects, there were complaints with regards to why are you not focusing on those who are stealing money? Why are you focusing on projects? And we ask them, where do people steal money? Raw cash. it is when projects have been executed. And we started with what we call constituency projects. I hope all of us know what constituency projects are. Yeah. Those are projects that our leaders, our politicians are domiciled in their constituencies. And this started way back in, I think, 1999 or the year 2000. Governments usually appropriate 100 billion every year for such projects. And this 100 billion will be for projects that the National Assembly members, senators, and House of Rep members will execute in their various communities. But between you and I, do we see such projects in our various constituencies? You hardly see them. It is because of this that ICPC decided that, okay, let us go to these various communities. Let us go and see those projects, whether they are there or not. Unfortunately, when we got to various local areas, we hardly could see any of such projects. So if you could multiply 100 billion from year 2000 to year 2019, you could see what government had released for such projects, but we never saw anything. We started project tracking in 12 states to do a kind of a sampling. And when we came back, we realized that Nigerians have been taken for a ride. So different divisions were now created by the ICPC to now monitor government projects that are being executed in various communities. Initially, it was constituency project. Now we now say, okay, it must encompass the other projects, which is capital projects. We call them government-funded projects, because the first phase we did caused a little bit of problems. There were insinuations that ICPC was focusing on the legislators. What about the executive arms of government? Because the money for executive arm of government is huge, and yes, very, very huge. So that was why we decided, okay, let us combine everything together. Let us track all these projects. But the result has not been palatable, I must confess. Everywhere you go, you see signs of corruption, and you see corruption face to face. Who do we blame? There is this unholy alliance with regards to budgeting, procurement, and project delivery. These are the three areas that when you look at them critically, you see corruption working on all fours. Let me give you an example. Every year, budget is made by the federal government, running to trillions. The federal government will ask each MDAs, ministry department, and agencies to submit their proposals, budget proposals. They will submit. Agency A may submit a budget of 3 billion. Agency B will submit a budget of 10 billion, while Agency C submit a budget of 20 billion. That's for examples. When the budget is now approved and taken back to these agencies, the Agency A that submitted the lower budget will now have approval to execute budget of 100 billion. Are we together? Agency B will have a budget approval of maybe 70 billion. Agency C will have a budget of 150 billion. Mind you, the budget proposal they submitted were little. How did they come about those approvals? And when you are submitting your budget proposals, it's based on your plan, what you want to do, and your capacity to execute such projects. Now, an agency of government that has only 300 personnel and has submitted a budget of 5 billion. Now you are approving budget of 50 billion. How will such project be executed and executed well? These are the issues. That is when you now see various shenanigans coming in. Those who inputted those extra funds into the budget, they will not sit down and be looking. They will come to the agencies because the title of the projects that have been embedded are always vague. Construction of 6 classrooms in Niger Delta. Where? Where in Niger Delta? So they will now come to the agency, meeting the agency head or the procurement head, that this line, budget line is for me. Now, when that is said, then there's pressure on the agency, there's pressure on the head of procurement, such that eventually they are the one that will eventually bring the contractor. That means that they have spoiled the work of procurement. There's no competitive bidding any longer. Isn't that corruption? Are we together? These are the experiences. That is one aspect of it. Another aspect is this. An agency of government that has the mandate to train middle-level officer in horticulture or middle-level officer in cocoa research is now saddled with responsibility of executing a project worth maybe 50 billion that involves building of bridges in Niger Delta with this terrain, building of dams. How will such projects be well executed? So from our experience, from what we have seen, it is like everybody just sat down to bring money and to propose, to do appropriation. And after this appropriation, then money goes down the drain. You hardly can see such project being well executed. It is when ICPC now came in that, okay, every year or two times in a year, we follow such projects. We do budget analysis every year. We collect the national budget, the capital budget. We collect also the ZIP budget. The ZIP budget are those constituency projects. We analyze, disaggregate. They will now call for project files, suspicious ones that we see. We call for project files from the main ministries where they are supposed to execute those projects. We pick those projects that we feel we usually won't execute well. And we don't do it all alone. We involve professional bodies. BPP will be there, quantity surveyors, Koren and NSC, such that nobody will accuse ICPC of saying, okay, you are targeting this, you are targeting that. We ask all these professional bodies to pick these projects for us. Then we go to project sites with all these professionals. We measure line by line. We use a Kobo toolbox as an application that when you get to a project site, when you are either interviewing people or you are doing measuring, everything is recorded online and offline, so that when our staff, our officers, when they come back again, we check whether really they were there. At what point were they there? Sometimes we see those projects. So what we are saying essentially is that we need to be serious if we want projects to be well executed. Everybody must contribute their own quota. MBAs, please do whatever you can to help us in this regard. We need to monitor these funds. Funds are being released every now and then by government, but where are those funds going? When projects are padded or are inserted, you should be assured that those projects will not be well executed because they will not allow the BPP or the procurement department to do the needful, to allow adverts to be done and whatever. And again, they are now doing something again. They do what they call selective tendering. In the BPP law, yes, there is room for selective tendering for certain goods and services, maybe that cannot be done in Nigeria, or that is only one manufacturer or whatever that can do it. But now, by the time they've inserted those projects, before they come to the agencies to come and lobby the head of the agency, of the procurement person, they will have gone to the BPP. They have their people there. They put pressure on BPP, put pressure on everybody that these projects must be approved for selective tendering. And when there's selective tendering, then there's no competitiveness. They will just award it to whoever they want to award it to. And we have seen so many cases like that. That's one aspect. So what we usually do is that thereafter, when we do project, when projects are executed, and we found that there are some shenanigans, we invite the project supervisors, we invite the procurement officers, we invite the contractors. These are the people that usually consider the first leg of the shenanigans. And again, we do a background check on the contractor that supposedly won the bid. Before you know it, you discover that it is either the friends of the person that started the project or the family and so on and so forth. And initially, we usually say, okay, agencies where we have these type of problems, such agencies will do administrative sanction.
Mr. Suleiman, you have 2 minutes more.
Only, okay. Administrative sanction. But we discovered that this administrative sanction is not working. Then we started on our own, taking these people to court. When you go and have your days in court, go and tell the court what has happened. Then, on projects they didn't do well, we either recover the money or we ask the contractor to go back to site to go and redo it. So these are the things that we usually do. So they say I have only 1 minute more. I also crave your indulgence to please help ICPC by collaborating with us such that we can reduce to the barest minimum the corruption around projects in Nigeria. Thank you so much. I have more to say, but the time does not permit.
Thank you. Thank you. We will look at your slides later. Thank you so much. We are now on question and answer series. I have just 1 or 2 general comments for all the speakers. Each of these speakers have always told us that lawyers should come in to help them. But repeatedly here, they have told us that 7 professional bodies in the construction industry are the ones making regulations, preparing contracts, and everything for them. Those 7 professional bodies doesn't include lawyers. So I think you should take it back to your various agencies and professional bodies that the recognized professional bodies in the construction industry should now include lawyers. Because when you look at the guide in achieving your task in the construction industry, they are divided into 3. 1 is technical, which is what you are supposed to do. The other one is contractual. Another one is regulatory. So both contractual and regulatory are really the job of lawyers. But when you lump them together and you do everything all by yourself, that's why you have problems. And now that you are genuinely asking lawyers to step in, just have it at the back of your mind that you need to segregate the functions that you have lumped together and you are struggling with it. Now let me just ask 1 or 2 individual questions to the first person is Coburn, Mr. Adenero. We're looking at a situation where you talked about enforcement. And, don't you think that construction methodology and plan, project plan, quality plan, health and insurance and construction program plan, which you have spoken about here, don't you think that when you say a client should demand for construction methodology from a builder, and maybe the builder is not able to provide it, and that will be the end of the matter? Is it not so? Are you not supposed to put it in the contract that every builder must supply construction methodology, the construction program, and all other things that a builder is required to provide in order to be seen as qualified to build?
Right. Thank you very much for the question.
So let me finish, because I have one question for each of you so that you take it together. Now, the after effect of a developer who doesn't understand the after effect of those requirements for those technical qualifications for developers embarking on projects. What I'm trying to say is sometimes developers are the ones who build these structures that collapse. What are the qualifications for a developer? Because at the moment, there seems not to be any qualification. Anybody can be a developer. And that's why you have buildings that are collapsing in their hands. Then, son, I have this question for you. Talk about engineering lab. That's part of what you have, the services you provide. But oftentimes, we see that substandard building materials are culprits to the collapse of buildings. The question is, these substandard building materials, did they not pass through your lab? How did they find their way into the market? And even if it's out of inadvertence, you already know that these substandard products are in the market. And you are the one that regulates standard. So why do we still have substandard materials? Mr. Suleiman, you talked about collaboration by professional bodies. I think that first question is actually for you. So that the collaboration that you're talking about is among the 7 professional bodies. It doesn't include lawyers. So why? Then ICPC, the last question. I want to see a situation whereby you are able to prosecute some public officials who are involved in one way or the other in collapse of buildings. Because you see that sometimes when approvals are given, because there are various stages of approval, it is government officials that give these approvals, either because they were compromised or something happened along the line. They give approvals, and the contractor goes to site, continues the job, and the building collapses. ICPC, I know your jurisdiction covers public officers. Have you looked at this aspect, that government officials also contribute, either through negligence or something, by giving approvals to contractors to build, and eventually that building collapses? Because there's one instance that happened in one of the states. A government official gave approval for a developer to continue with a building that has more than 13 floors. And when investigators went in, they found out that that government official had never approved a building of more than 6 floors. So he doesn't even have the experience. He didn't have the experience of approving any building that is more than 6 floors, yet he did that approval. ICPC, do you look at that aspect? So that's all. Let's take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Any question, please? All right. So please.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. And the reason why these issues have been brought up about what documents should be requested from builders is to create the awareness. And the point we're making is that if you ask somebody who holds out to be a builder or who holds out to have the competence to manage the production of your house for these documents, if he cannot produce them, he's not a registered builder. That's the exact point we're making, that every registered builder is trained and is able to produce, and indeed he uses these documents in the process of producing projects. I should also say, just for records, that of the various buildings that have collapsed in Nigeria, not one of them was handled by a licensed builder. Not one. So it just says the type of problem that we have. And the law establishing COBON, the tribunal, for example, established by the Act, is a registered builders disciplinary tribunal. So it means that it is only people on my register that I have disciplinary control over. Those are some of the gaps why we are saying that there is need for engagement with the legal minds to see how these gaps can be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you. Son.
Okay, with regards to the question that why are there substandard products in the market? So I think it's important to understand how SON goes about ensuring that only products that meet the requirements of relevant standards go into the market. We actually have two conformity assessment programs, one to check the locally manufactured products and the other to check the imported products. And you know, Nigeria is highly dependent on importation. And we have a challenge with regards to the strategy being employed in checking the products coming into the market. The strategy employed by SON is to ensure that we check or we try to take control at the points of entry or at the points of manufacture. Because once you allow the products go into the market, it becomes extremely difficult and very expensive to recall the products, sometimes even impossible to get all the products. So the most logical thing is at the points of entry. And we have restricted access to the ports and borders. That's number one challenge. We have restricted access. SON goes to the points of entry only on invitation. And then secondly, you know our borders are porous. So some products still come okay.
Thank you, the moderator. The area I was stressing is that while we were trying to establish the building collapse prevention guilds, the 7 professional bodies in the construction industry were pulled together to establish that guild. So the question you are asking is, why was lawyers not part of it? Well, I would say that at the point of establishing the guild, the thinking then was that we have these 7 professional bodies that were doing their own things on their own separately. And we've been having conflict in coming together to be able to unite and see things in the right directive and be able to ascertain building rights so that everybody within that group will see the need to be able to do the thing right. And that's the essence of it.
Thank you very much. And you have your...
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, when we started the project tracking, the first one we did, project on which either we recover funds for government or on which we compel contractor to go back to site. What we first of all did was that, okay, we have the various agencies of government, officials, agents of government to do administrative sanction for those officials whose certified such project as having been done. Subsequently, we knew that, when you have agencies to do administrative sanction, because of the friendship within the agencies, they may not do the right thing. So we started prosecuting whoever has contributed to such loopholes or corruption. In various courts in Nigeria now, we have people we are prosecuting, either project supervisors or procurement officers. So we are prosecuting them now to serve as deterrent to whoever want to do whatever. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Time is up. So you stand by for photograph, and any further questions you'll be attend to it privately. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, distinguished moderator and presenters. We have to end the session now because of time. I'm inviting the leadership of SBL to come for pictures, the picture opportunity. Please, let's rise and take pictures. In the meantime, I'm just going to make some announcements. There's a session immediately after this. Please stay. It's not over. And once that session is over, I know we're all looking forward to it, there's dinner at the other marquee. And after dinner, there's still an after party. So it's a long day, but an interesting day. So please, we crave your indulgence. Hang in there. It's well worth it at the end of the day. Thank you very much. Do you need to add, join? Unfortunately, we can't take any more questions from the public. We regret that. But, physically. But please send... SBL Secretariat, Rex, please, could you flash an appropriate email address that questions can be sent to? And we do promise that we will send responses as soon as we get them from the participants. Thank you very much.
Real quick, we'll go into the next panel. This is more like a knowledge sharing session with all the big names in the house. So I will be coordinating this session with my colleague, Mrs. Elvon Ezie. My name is Eze, so we'll actually not be reading the long bios. We'll just go straight to key lines and then we'll invite them up to the stage. She'll start now.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'll just go through the few lines of the bio of the panelists to be called on stage. The first is Mr. Tobena Erojikwe. Mr. Tobena Erojikwe leads the finance, energy, and major project team at the Law Crest LLP and is qualified to practice in Nigeria and England and Wales. He holds an LLB from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and an LLM in corporate finance law from the University of Westminster. With extensive experience in project finance and public-private partnership, he has advised on major transactions, including a $600 million oil and gas financing. He played a key role in the TLC IFL 1000 restructuring deal of the year 2020. He will be giving us a valuable insight on the subtopic, Charting Your Career Course, Navigating Life Priorities and Professional Growth as a Young Lawyer. Please, can we put our hands together for this wonderful CV of Mr. Tobena Erojikwe? Please, let's give him a round of applause. The next on my list is Ozofulatunde Ogemudia. She is the Deputy Managing Partner at Udo Udoma and Bello Sage, specializing in corporate law, private equity, and merger and acquisition. She has led significant pro bono projects and played a key role in drafting the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. As the chairperson of the NBA SBL, she engages in legislative and policy reforms. Consistently, she has been recognized annually by the International Financial Law Review as one of the 1,000 women law leaders, and also as a national leader by the Who is Who for her merger and acquisition practice. She is a leader in corporate legal practice. She will be talking on the subtopic, Breaking the Glass Ceiling, Succeeding Against All Odds. Can we give a resounding round of applause for Ozofu? The next on the list is Mr. Olumide Akpata. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Thank you. That is a household name, if you will agree with me. Mr. Olumide Akpata is the former MBA president and was the Labour Party Edo State governorship candidate. Mr. Olumide Akpata is a seasoned corporate lawyer, a senior partner at Templars. He led the firm to prominence and played a key role in Nigeria's legal and regulatory reforms. As the 30th NBA president in 2020 to 2022, he championed democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. He serves in key legal bodies, including the National Judicial Council, and notably, during his tenure as the NBA president, he established partnership with the National Assembly and the Nigerian Economic Summit and a host of others. He is indeed a thought leader in the legal and economic development of the country. He will be talking to us basically on scaling the ladder, scaling the legal ladder, proving paths to success in the profession. Can we give him a resounding round of applause? Please, I hand over the microphone to my co-coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvon. Our next speaker, Dr. Gabriel Ogweche, OON, is the Group MD of Green Oil Limited. He grew the company into a major downstream oil and gas company. He read production engineering and at the University of Benin, studied at the Lagos and Harvard Business Schools. He serves as a chairman, and a director in Globus Bank, Eterna PLC, and Northworthy Agro-Allied Industries. He's passionate about philanthropy, fitness, and tennis. He actively supports education, healthcare, and community development. He'll be speaking to us on Beyond the Courtroom, Business Strategies for Success. On the panel, we have Olawumi Wano, Mrs. She'll be representing Augustine Alege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Commander of the Order of Niger. Olawumi Wano is a legal practitioner with nearly 2 decades of experience in litigation and commercial law. She's a graduate of Lagos State University with an LLM from UNIBEN. She specializes in international, humanitarian, and human rights law. She's a coordinating partner at Alege & Co. and a notary public since 2016. A member of the MBA and the IBA, she's passionate about legal excellence, activism, and networking. She'll be speaking about winning in law, a personal experience. Please, a round of applause for her. The next panelist, Mr. George Etomi, is a fellow of the National Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. He's a leading commercial lawyer and the principal partner at George Etomi and Partners. He played a pivotal role in Nigeria's power sector privatization and advises major corporations and government entities. He is a life bencher and the past chairman of the MBA SBL. He presently chairs the Nigerian Stock Exchange Claims and Review Panel. He is a receiver of the National Productivity Order of Merit Award and has a legal research center in his name. This version, he will be talking to us today on my secret of success in commercial law. Please, a round of applause for him. Now, our moderator, no other than Emeka Obegolu, SAN, PhD. He's a senior and founding partner at Greenfield. I've been told Akajugo. Akajugo himself. He holds an LLB from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, an LLM in Mineral Law and Policy from the University of Dundee, and a PhD in arbitration. Also a diploma in international commercial arbitration. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK and ICMC. He is ICMC. He's an experienced arbitrator, mediator, serving as a neutral across multiple dispute resolution centers. He has spoken at international conferences and trained extensively in arbitration, negotiation, and mediation. He's the past president of the Pan-African Lawyers Union and ICMC. He's a former MBA General Secretary and Publicity Secretary and has held leadership roles in ADR institutions as well as leads the Abuja Chamber of Commerce. He is a knight, a traditional title holder, and is married with children. Please, a round of applause for him. For some reasons, he will also be assisted by our own Andrew Osemedwa Odum, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. So I will hand the mic over to the moderator of this session so that he can start his.
Thank you very much, Eze. Distinguished colleagues, you know, it's very difficult to attend a session from morning till evening by this time. But the interesting thing about this session is that it's a knowledge sharing session. So anybody who has left this hall before now will have himself to blame. Now let me ask, how many of us here, and I'm talking to the young lawyers now, how many of us has had any experience with infrastructure law? Anyone? What of construction law? So what it means is that in this hall, if we are going to take up the offer by the DG of the BPP, Bureau of Public Procurement, to train lawyers with skill set for procurement in the infrastructure or construction industry, there will be nobody here. And that is why this session is titled Mentoring and Knowledge Sharing Session. In the street balance, this session will be hot soup for me, or share update. The SBL has assembled a panel of heavyweights to share updates with lawyers from these parts. And what it means is that I will not be moderating alone because I'm not worthy to moderate a session of these heavyweights, very successful legal practitioners who are assembled to let us know from their personal experience, from their growth trajectory, how they came this far. I will be moderating this session with Mr. Andrew Odum, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for two reasons. First is that my flight out of town is for 5:30 p.m. and I will seek your kind indulgence to permit me to leave at any time when the airport staff call me that the flight is on ground. Secondly, is that the session is designed to upscale our young lawyers to be ready for the challenges ahead. The juicy briefs within the section on business law and the space for business law is massive. But it appears to me that that space is exclusively reserved for certain jurisdictions. And, and I think time has come to liberalize that space so that the man in Kano will partake. Let the man in Enugu partake so it will go round. That is the essence of this session. So having said that, let me invite, we have very little time, let me invite on the list shared with me, I have the first speaker as Mr. George Etomi, who will share his thoughts on his secrets of success in commercial law practice. Uncle George.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And thank you to the organizers of this conference. I'm happy to be in Asaba. And Asaba brings a lot of childhood memories to me, because this was the route we took constantly when we were traveling from Ibadan or Benin to the east, constantly. In those days, there were no bridges. We had this pontoon we used to cross, eventually the old bridge, and now the new bridge. So I'm delighted to be here. Now, to go straight to the point, there isn't one silver bullet for success in legal practice, especially commercial law practice. But for many of you young ones, the question you'd ask yourself is, and perhaps the quandary you have is, at what point do I decide that I want to be a commercial law practitioner? At what point? And I say this because practice is generally associated with litigation, and they're doing a great job. And if you don't do litigation, there's very little information about how you skirt around commercial law practice. I can tell you, sharing my own personal story, it was fortuitous. It wasn't something I planned as such. Like everybody else, when I finished, I have this penchant to teach. So when I finished from the law school, I served in Kaduna, then I went to do my master's in London School of Economics. I actually resumed in Unilag to teach. And I saw my very good friend, Udoma Udoma, who was passing by, and I hailed, Udoma, what are you doing? He said, no, it was his last day. He too was teaching. It was his last day. I said, why? He said, well, it wasn't quite what he thought it would be. And I said to him, Udoma, if you are not teaching, then I'm not teaching. So I left. And then I then said, what next? He said he had gotten a job at Chase Merchant Bank at the time. And then he gave me the address of Chris Ogubanjo and Co. And it was my visit to Chris Ogubanjo and Co. that in which I came into contact with the great Chief Ogubanjo, Chris Ogubanjo, who without a doubt is the father of commercial law practice in Nigeria. So it was fortuitous. And even though the 4 years I spent there, I did a bit of litigation, I decided after a while that I just simply liked his style. I liked the general dignity around the way he carried himself. I liked the esoteric nature of the briefs we handled at that time. Very, very esoteric. This was about the time Nigeria passed those indigenization laws that essentially brought many Nigerians to become shareholders in a lot of the multinational companies you know of today. So there were loads and loads of transactions. So for me, as a young, how old was I then? I was young, 25-year-old. I was fighting to understand what this whole concept meant. So that meant I depended a lot on Chief's wisdom. And that's one of the first lessons you will learn. Who your mentor is very significant to your progress in life. Just pray and be deliberate about seeking out a mentor that would be free to share his knowledge. Chief always told me something, and I said it when he passed on at almost age 100. He was never afraid to share knowledge, because he said you didn't become less knowledgeable because you shared knowledge. He was never afraid to expose his client to you, because he tells you a client who is worth his salt will not go away because you sent somebody else to them. And that was the circumstance under which I personally got introduced to some of the titans around at the time. Mr. Akintola Williams, late First City Monument Bank, Otuba Balogun, and all the big guns, because he was the only commercial law practitioner amongst a group of entrepreneurs who used to come to look at how they were going to seize the opportunity opened up by the Nigerian government to these Nigerians. And he never kept me away from these meetings. So that gave me the impetus to fly. But he told me something. It's one thing for a door to be open to you. It's another thing for you to walk through that door. And what that meant was that I needed to go and do my research. I needed to learn the nuances about, that's the fine points about our legal profession, your comportment, your understanding. Because you will find that as a lawyer, your age is immaterial if you know your onions. And you will stand before kings, you will stand before commercial gurus if you know your onions. But in the same breath, if you don't walk through that door by not doing your homework, it will be a missed opportunity. So those were the abiding lessons I learned. And very quickly, I found myself in so many of the major transactions that were going on at that time. I needed to, it was during that time we had the banking, what we now call today the banking revolution. Many of you young ones perhaps didn't know that there was a time you needed to take what they call tally number to go and withdraw money from the bank. That was how ancient banking was. And then the doors were open and the opportunities just came in torrents. So when after 4 years I left him, I made myself a promise that in the minimum I would not fall below the standard that I had been exposed to. So from the choice of where my office was located, to the type of law I practiced, to the sort of attention I paid to details, I was very deliberate in ensuring that I took utmost advantage of the opportunity that was open to me. And because I managed my exit with Chief very well, that's another lesson you learn. Because for a lot of you young people, you have mentors, but when it's time to move on to what you consider greener pastures, you just sort of burn that bridge. It's not worth it. I managed my transition well. So I still had that umbilical cord tied to Chief Chris Ogbumanjo and Co. till this day. So which meant that for those transactions for which the wisdom of time can show you the path out, I had a pathway to Chief Ogbumanjo. And so many other things. I worked my socks off, because when I started my office, I was alone. Me and my secretary. If I started in one room, when clients are coming, once the client is coming, I chase him out. And then he goes with his table and chairs, and I'm alone, and I look the parts and everything. And then when I finish, he comes back in and all that. Again, humble beginnings. Don't be afraid to start. Because a lot of the people you see here today, I can tell you, none of them, except perhaps with our current chair, none of them was born with a silver spoon. We all did the grinding, as they say. And there's always somebody who opens that door for you. So please manage that exit. And then I will say one other thing. For you young lawyers, there are 3 things that make for good and successful legal practice. One, you have to get the job in. That means you must develop those skills, marketing skills, that make you attractive to clients. Secondly, you must do the work to the highest professional and ethical standards. That's very key. And then thirdly, you must get paid for it. Now, if you're lucky, you could have these 3 qualities embodied in one person. But very often, you look for combinations of it. And for many of you who the current method is to start, please let me know when my time is up. I'm looking at this. Is that for the entire session or for me?
No, I think you had 10 minutes, but you can do another 3 minutes.
Okay. All right, so it's so important. So where you don't have, you are not very strong at attracting clients, look for that person. Now, to do the work to the highest professional and ethical standard is very key, because that's why the clients come back. And then most importantly, get paid for the job. Many of us, at times, we're too shy. We don't know how to bill. But there are courses on billing. Billing is an art by itself. If you combine all these 3, then you'll be well on the pathway. And I learned personally from these. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uncle George. You do not become less knowledgeable by sharing knowledge. George Etomi, 2025. So thank you very much, Uncle George. The next speaker will be the representative of Augustine Alege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olawumi S. Wano. She will share her experience on winning in law. What is your personal experience? Mrs. Wano, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. I bring greetings from Mr. Alege SAN, who's not able to join us this evening. And very briefly, I will be talking about winning in law, my personal experience. I think some of the things I'm going to be talking about, Uncle George already mentioned, but I have about 7 pointers that I want to run through. Quickly, I will run through those pointers, and as time permits, I will just give a brief explanation on those points. The first one I have is that winning is about mastery, not just results. It's about knowing the law. It's about keeping updated. It's about improving on our skills as lawyers. The second one is that winning in law is about strategy and preparation. Beyond knowing the principles of law, beyond acquiring skills, we also have to strategize. We should know when to apply what principles. We should strategize on the right thing to do at the right time. The third point is that winning is about ethics and integrity. I think our most valuable asset as lawyers has to be our integrity. The society at large looks up to us. Majority of the people who have spoken in the course of the conference have told us that they are looking to partner with lawyers because, of course, they understand and appreciate the value of lawyers. They know what value we bring to society. So, okay, sir. So, for us as lawyers, winning is about ethics. It's about integrity. We must keep our integrity intact at all times. The fourth point is that winning is about building relationships. Uncle George also mentioned that. He talks about leaving Chris Ogumbanjo and co. and the fact that he still maintains a very healthy relationship. For us as lawyers, building relationships is very important. No man is an island. We will need the connections we forge. It is one of the reasons we are here, I understand. We will network, we will connect. And in all the places where we find ourselves, it's important that we're able to build relationships. It is the one thing that we will need to win in law. I also say that winning is about resilience. The sixth point is that winning is about balance. We must be able to balance our work and our lives outside of the law profession or outside of our career as lawyers. We must have another life so that we can maintain a healthy lifestyle. And then the last one says, winning is about the bigger picture, the impact we make on people. So as time permits, I will just go through this very briefly. The first point I mentioned is that winning is about mastery. In my experience, a lawyer cannot go far if he doesn't know his onions. At least if you claim to be something, you should be able to justify it. Know your onions inside and out. And especially in these days where we have specializations. Everybody, perhaps everybody on this panel has one specialization or the other. They have become because of their mastery of their craft. And so if one must win in law, you must master your craft. You must be available. You must be able to justify your name. You must be able to justify your standing. It's not enough for me to say I'm a lawyer. And a lot of the times, from the very first day you are called to the bar, when people start calling you the law, they expect that you know everything. Although we don't know everything, but at least a good lawyer should have a good knowledge of a lot of subjects. So many things are going on around us. We must keep ourselves abreast. We can't be found wanting. Should you be called upon at any time to say something about a totally unfamiliar subject, make sure you are able to say one or two things and that you are not misleading whoever it is that you're talking to. So for a lawyer, we must be a master at our craft. The other thing I talked about is about strategizing. And I think closely related to that is building relationships. You know, in strategizing, we will need other people. The relationships we build, we will be able to fall back on. And then we prepare for whatever comes. No one walks into a meeting without quite preparing for whatever subject they're going to be dealing with. For us, for those who are in corporate practice, when you have to close deals, you want to ensure the best results for your clients. You can't walk into a boardroom or walk into a meeting without actually preparing for what is to come. Otherwise, definitely one makes a mess of it. The saying is true that failing to prepare, of course, is preparing to fail. And that fail will be woeful. So as lawyers, if we must win, I think we need to be able to strategize. And of course, we must always be prepared for what is to come. When I go on to the third one to say that winning is about ethics and integrity, everybody looks up to us. They look at us and they expect that when everything goes down the hill, when it's all upside down, it will be lawyers who will bring some form of structure and organization in the very chaotic situations. It's incumbent on us as lawyers. I know that when we're called to bar, beyond our intelligence, beyond our qualifications, beyond our grades, we were found fit and proper, which is actually a very important point. Being fit and being proper is about integrity. And for every one of us here, the future of the profession is in our hands. It therefore behoves on us that we preserve and protect the integrity of the profession. A good lawyer or a winning lawyer is a lawyer who has integrity, who is ethical. Our moral backgrounds, our ethical values, they are things we must stand by, regardless of the situation. We will feel pressure sometimes. Some clients will ask us to do shady stuff. But a winning lawyer is not one who wins at all costs. Winning at all costs is not winning at all. I think that a lawyer who will win is one who, despite the pressure and sometimes financial rewards, will stand by their ethical values and do what is right, do what is just, and do what is fair. I also say winning is about resilience. The truth is that in all of these, there will be setbacks. Sometimes there will be losses. Of course, there will be victories. Many of the seniors who are seated here today will attest to the fact that they've had setbacks in their practice. There have been times where they felt this blow, they lost out on some major deals. But again, I think the mindset will always be, I will bounce back and I will come back stronger. A winning lawyer is one who always knows that no matter the situation, whatever may be the setbacks, we will bounce back. Because indeed, the law profession is not for the faint of heart. The pressure is always there. And sometimes it will lead us to places, to situations that are not very comfortable, that are not very encouraging. But we must have a mindset of a winner. That, for me, again, is one strategy of a winning lawyer. The other thing is about balance. I know that in a lot of MBA programs these days, they talk about mental health. It is one major area of our lives that perhaps as lawyers we neglect. Too many times we're not able to draw the line to know that, oh, I deserve rest. To know that we must maintain balance, work-life. Outside of law, I would encourage that a winning lawyer is one who knows how to find things outside of law that brings joy to them. Not just law. Yes, the pressure to win is there. The pressure to succeed is always there. And we are often tempted to just keep going at it. Until I get the result I want, I have to keep going at it. But then again, we will always need rest. A well-rested, well-rounded lawyer is the one who can, deliver and who can operate maximally at their best. So we need to be able to imbibe a work-life family balance to ensure that we win. And then I've talked about building relationships. I think the last point, for brevity of time, is the fact that we always must look at the bigger picture. We are lawyers, but more than anything, we give direction to society. We must always consider the impact we will have on the society at large. Of course, we owe our clients the duty to work in their best interest. But beyond that, the things we do, even with the individual client, always have the ripple effect on the society. So in all of this, we have to ask ourselves, especially when one starts out in practice or in the profession, what kind of lawyer do I want to be? Am I just going to go through the motions? Or am I one who is here to make impact? And impact, of course, has to be positive impact, because that is what is expected of us. And then when we consider our ethical values, we will always have it at the back of our minds that the bigger picture for me as a lawyer is not just to be able to say, I have so much in my bank account because I have succeeded. It is also about the fact that I have impacted lives, and positively at that. It is being able to say that in all of the things I have done, I am proud that this is where I stand. So I will conclude by just running over this to say that winning in law, in my experience, I haven't gone too far, but at least in my little time, in my experience, winning in law is about balance, it's about integrity, it's about ethics, it's about resilience, and it's about building relationships. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Augustine Alege, SAN, represented by our sister. Thank you for telling us what to do, how to go about it to become successful in our practice. The next speaker is Dr. Gabriel Ubechie. Dr. Gabriel Ubechie, we know him a man of so many parts, CV, inspiring and intimidating. You'll be wondering, why did we invite Dr. Gabriel Ubechie? The best that you can find anywhere. A successful businessman, Chairman, CEO of Rain Oil, I want him to speak to us on beyond the courtroom, business strategies for success. Beyond the courtroom, business strategies for success. In one word, how do we become billionaires as lawyers? Thank you very much, sir. We're very grateful. Make us billionaires now. A round of applause for Gabriel Obeche. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, let me appreciate Barrister Odom SAN for, first and foremost, inviting me, and of course, for putting this great event together with his team. Can we give him a round of applause? Secondly, let me ask my very good friend, Olumide Akpata, to give me legal protection, because I'm seated here, a non-lawyer surrounded by so many lawyers. So, Lou, I seek your protection. Okay, my name is Gabriel Obeche. I'm the Group Managing Director of Rain Oil Limited. This afternoon, I will just share a few nuggets on, succeeding as a lawyer outside, beyond the courtroom. What are the nuggets I believe we need to succeed outside the courtroom? First and foremost, going outside the courtroom, for those of you who are lawyers, means going into the business realm. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what's the first key thing we need to succeed in business? I say number one is knowledge. Knowledge. When people want to go into business, most times they place so much premium on capital. They want to raise capital to start a business. But I tell them the most important thing you need in any business you want to do is knowledge. When you put knowledge in front and capital is trailing knowledge, what tends to happen is that the knowledge acts as a protective shield over the capital. If you put capital in front and knowledge is trailing capital, what tends to happen is that you lose the capital to acquire the knowledge. And that's when we say you've learned the hard way. My prayer is that we don't learn the hard way. If we take Asaba as an example, if you drive around this city, the city is developed. I mean, there's money everywhere. The man who is into oil and gas is making money. The man who is into hospitality is making money. The man who is into IT is making money. The man who is into legal practice is making money. The important thing, for those of us who are Christians, the Bible says that whatsoever you lay your hand on shall prosper. But what I tend to add is that we should lay our hand on what we understand. I went into oil and gas because when I left school, of course, I took a degree in production engineering from Uniben. I worked briefly for Pricewaterhouse. Then I went into an oil and gas company. I had worked for an oil and gas company for 5 years. I had learned the ropes. I knew that if I could raise the capital to start my business, I would make a success of it. I had the knowledge, and I went into oil and gas, and by the grace of God, 28 years and counting, I thank God that we're here. So we must place a lot of premium on knowledge. The second thing is strategy. Barrister told me, and then the lady representing Alege also brushed on it. It's strategy. If you want to go from point A to point B, you need to have a clear strategy. You need to have a clear roadmap on how you intend to make that journey. There's a saying that a mediocre strategy excellently executed is better than an excellent strategy poorly executed. What's your strategy? Then go ahead and execute that strategy with what I will call military precision. I have seen it. I've taken a business from ground zero to, I dare say, the zenith of it. I was listening to George told me when he was saying that when he started, he had an office. He was sharing an office with his secretary. When the visitor comes, he drives the secretary away. It it's a story that a lot of us can relate with. Never be too humble to start small. Start from where you are. You know, but when you are at that point, you need to have a very clear strategy. I remember when we didn't have any petrol station. We built our first petrol station. Incidentally, we built our very first petrol station in a place called Ibodo in Delta State. Yeah, that was way back in 1999. When we decided to expand, when we decided to go to a place like Kaduna, we had a clear strategy why we had to go to Kaduna. Why do we have to be in Kaduna? There was a refinery there. We're doing a lot of LPFO out of Kaduna, so we're there. So it only made sense that we put a petrol station there. When we decided to go to Enugu, why do we have to go to Enugu? When we decided to come to Asaba around 2005, why did we have to come to Asaba? There was a clear strategy. And that strategy we have executed. Even when we decided to build our first depot in Ogara, I tell people we have a lot of petrol stations in Delta and Edo State, and it's because we have a tank farm in Ogara where the ship comes into Ogara. So distributing into this place was a very low-hanging fruit for us. So we have a strategy, and we have executed it, and it has worked. The other thing I want to talk about is financial discipline. You can't run a successful business if you can't control money. The first thing you must be able to control is money. You must be able to see money and keep your cool. For me, money means nothing. There's no amount of money you will tell me. It's just a figure. There's no amount of money I will see in my bank account that will make me buy something I did not plan to buy. The successful businessman thinks of money in terms of the next project, in terms of what next, what else am I going to invest in? Not what else am I going to consume. So you must be thinking in terms of investment, in terms of production, not in terms of consumption. Because as they say, you know, one, we chase 1,000, two, we chase 10,000. It's the power of multiplication. For those of us who are into oil and gas, just imagine that you have a petrol station, it's contributing into the pool, then you have 2 contributing into the pool, suddenly you have 10 contributing into the pool, then you have 20, 30, 40, 50. Then the rate at which you produce money becomes so much that you now begin to produce money faster than you can actually invest money. Then you can begin to say, I think I'm getting there. Yeah, I don't want to use that word. But you understand what I mean. You have to just keep investing. And then, keep your earnings in the business. The best way to grow a business is through retained earnings. When you make money, keep that money in the business. You see, Nigeria is a very peculiar environment. You know, when you operate in an economy where interest rates is 30%, excuse me, I don't know what you can borrow money at 30% and do and be able to make money, especially when we're talking of capital projects, except you're into trading, buying and selling. If you borrow money to go and build a petrol station at 30%, you're dead. Because the average petrol station, maybe it's going to cost you 300 or 400 or 500 million naira, depending on the location. If you want to build a petrol station in Lagos, if you don't have 1 billion naira, don't bother. If you borrow 500 million naira at 30%, mind you, it's not simple interest, it's compound interest. So that money is going to double in 3 years. So what it means is that if the project can even pay for itself in 3 years, you've essentially just worked for the banks. So you're better off building it with your own retained earnings, then you can borrow money to trade. Buy fuel, sell fuel, take it back to the bank. Buy fuel, sell fuel, take it back to the bank. But the cost of the capital, as much as possible, do it with your own money. I see a lot of people who suddenly wake up one day and they are buried in debt. And they can't understand how they got there. Guy, you're not keeping an eye on the bottom line. Then again, time is not our friend today. You know, manage your liquidity. Manage your liquidity. Liquidity in business is very, very important. As a young kid growing up in Onitsha those days, you know, I used to go around this market called Ose Market, for those of you who know Onitsha well. You know, there was this poster I saw as a kid that left a very lasting impression on me. It was this poster of 2 men. One was fat and prosperous with so much cash around him. and he say, I sell for cash. Another one look lean and famished, and he say, I sell on credit. As a kid, it struck me, don't sell on credit. As much as possible, sell for cash. Protect your liquidity. Liquidity is the live wire, is the blood on which, yeah, of course, cash is king. Liquidity is the live wire on which business drives. You know, just leveraging on what Georgie told me just said. You know, there's this saying, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king. Don't play the turnover game. It's only the bankers who get excited with your turnover. Profit is sanity. You're only in business if your income exceeds your expenditure. If your income does not exceed your expenditure, you've just created activity. Then, of course, cash is king. Cash is king. Show me the cash. You know, a business that does 200 million naira in turnover but makes 20 million naira in profit is better than a business that turns over 20 billion but you're losing 50 million naira at the end of the year. It's the banker who gets excited on your turnover because he's going to charge you account maintenance charge or COT. You understand? But for you, please look out for your bottom line. But let me close. The next thing is the people. The people. Every organization is just as good as the quality of manpower they have. It's the people who make the organization. It's not the petrol stations. It's not the equipment. So when it comes to recruitment, always go for the best. Don't take somebody because it's my brother, it's my sister, it's my cousin. It's not going to get you anywhere. If you want to succeed in business and you want to go far, go for the best you can afford. I remember when Reno was very small, you know, when we were very small, when we want to recruit, even when it was just me, maybe we were like 2 or 3, I go and advertise the job in the Guardian, Tuesday Guardian those days. People will apply, I will shortlist, I will invite them. Some will come, they are very good, but of course, maybe I can't afford them, so I let them go. But I will take the best I can afford until you get to a point where you can compete with the best of the best because you're playing in the pool of the best talent. Let me leave it at that point, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
The applause, which is spontaneous, tells the whole story. How well we have received what you have said to us. Cash is king. So in this practice, I must focus on the cash. So we will come back to you, sir, because you have so much more to say. Uncle George has so much more to say. And everyone else on this panel. I want to tell you that we're also ready to hear, to take in everything you want to tell us. That is why we have left our practice, left every part of the country to come here. The promise to you from this panel is that you must live here better equipped as a lawyer in terms of knowledge than in terms of cash, potentially billionaires. So a round of applause to yourselves in anticipation. Thank you. The next speaker is a man who does not need introduction. Res ipsos loquitur. A thing speaks for itself. Mr. Olumide Akpata, former president of NBA, former chair of NBSBL, and so on, is a man you want to be like. We know Templars because of Olumide Akpata. He took Templars as the head of corporate and commercial practice division from Lagos to different states and took Templars International. Please let us give him a round of applause. So, sir, former president, what we want to get from you. How do we achieve this success that you have achieved and even better? So please take us on this, your journey on scaling the legal ladder, proving paths to success in the profession, commercial law practice. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny Silk. Thank you very much. Firstly, good evening, everybody. When are they here? Okay, just checking. I am sure Mr. Etomi is very excited. I am, being our founding chair of the SBL. I am a past chairman myself. I am extremely excited to be here. We must give a resounding round of applause to our Madam Chair. Sitting to my immediate right, it's a thing that gladdens the heart when you see that the work has continued, even though you are not there. When you see that the section continues to flourish. Madam Chair, we thank you. And Chairman of the committee, Leonard Stilk, we thank you. Thank you so much. I speak for Mr. Etomi and the pantheon of past chairmen and those of us who contributed to the growth of the section. You are definitely keeping the flag flying. We're extremely, extremely delighted. And what you're doing today speaks volumes, because when I was chair, when Mr. Etomi was chair, there was the problem or the question of SBL is only in Lagos. SBL is only in Abuja. We are sitting here in our Sabah today. It's a full house. It has been a full house since morning. I have interacted. I have met my colleagues from Isiokpo, colleagues from Ahoda, Moahia. The Nigerian bar, it tells me that the branches are working in synergy with the sections. And that is exactly what we wanted. So I'm extremely delighted. But you know, I'm glad that you are here for this session. But I am reminded of an Igbo gospel song. Metumakagi, Jesus, Metumakagi, Jesus. But the most important part, Ekwe kwalaka, umdiro twa wela. What does that mean? Huh? I want to make sure that you are taking away from here what you are learning. Don't go back the same way you came. Let the knowledge that has been shared here today impact you and your practice. Which is why I'm so glad that my brother, Dr. Ogbeche, spoke before me, because what I always say, when chairmen of branches invite me, come and speak at my branch, I say, what do you say make I come still talk when I never talk? Let us hear from the experts. Let's stop talking only to ourselves as lawyers. I'm so glad Dr. Ogbeche is here on this panel. I'm so glad that the panel before this one had experts from our regulators, from my other bodies. That is how, as lawyers, we can learn. I've been given a tall task to talk about essentially how to make each one of you replicate the Templars' story. Well, let me give a caveat, or let me say something very quickly. Things are tough in Nigeria. I can tell you my story. I can tell you the story of my firm, but I know that the circumstances today are pretty tough. So do not think for 1 second that those of us who are on stage here are not mindful of the supervening environment within which we operate. We recognize it. So because I know some will say it's easy for you to talk, you don't know what I'm going through. We understand. were living in the same Nigeria. But who they cry the sea road? Not be so? Things were tough when we set up Templars in the middle 90s. For those who are old enough to remember, it was in the Abacha years. Nigeria was a pariah nation. And then you had young 20-something-year-old lawyer who didn't go to Cambridge. I'm referring now to my managing partner and my cousin. We're all, most of us were ex-Uniben. 3 out of 4 of us were ex-Uniben. We were in our 20s, set up in Lagos that was saturated. That was when you had the big names in law practice. Big names. And we dared to set up a practice, obviously. And we now went ahead to give it a funny name, Templars. So some were saying, is this town planning? What do they do? But we were, we were looking at Mr. Itomi, and we were gaining inspiration from him and his secretary. Because by the time we set up, he had gone past that stage. He don't hammer at that time, as we say. But what is important is that even though things are hard, we have to make the sacrifice. We have to make the sacrifice because, like somebody said to me the other day, better the pain of sacrifice than the pain of regret. It's better to start. It's better you are looking forward than looking in the rear view mirror. I'm glad Dr. Ogbeche spoke to us because I think my own presentation or my own submissions segue from his perfectly. He was speaking to you about business, how to run a business. So, Dr. Ogbeche, the problem we've always had with our lawyers. One of the things, the gospel we preach at the section on business law. Law is a business. A lot of lawyers run very good businesses. But when it comes to running their own law firm, they consider it not a business. And so they don't think that the principles that apply to running any business apply to law, which is sometimes can be a tragedy. Law is a business. So remember, you are not going to live here the same way you came. So remember that one. That your law firm is a business. And so those principles that apply to the running of a business must apply to your law firm. So remember the things Dr. Ogbeche has mentioned here, Mr. Itomi has mentioned. Strategy. Dr. Ogbeche mentioned, don't eat your capital. Don't chop am. You must forget about instant gratification. Delayed gratification is required. You must reinvest in the business. In those days, when we started this mantra, people say, no, how can you say law is a business? It's a business. What did you set it up for? Is it a charity? It's not a charity. So, you must apply. Take us, for example, when we talk about strategy, what do you want to do? Where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 years? You must ask. We regularly have retreats. I don't know how many of you have retreats in your law firm. Even if you're only 2 lawyers, have a retreat at the end of the year to plan for the new year. Where do you want to see yourself? We started as 4 lawyers in my firm. Today is 160 lawyers, right? Now, if there was no plan, there's no way we would have gotten there. We started in Lagos. We're in 4 cities today, including outside Nigeria. If there was no plan, I'll give you a perfect example. We were going to be both a commercial law firm and a litigation law firm in the mid-90s. We had a strategy session one time. I said, this litigation, it's not going to work. Because at that point in time, we were struggling with litigation. We didn't have the time to sit in the courts morning to night when we were just building a new firm. So we took a strategic decision at a point that we will leave the litigation and delve into new areas, stick with commercial practice for a while, promising ourselves that we will come back to litigation later. It was a matter of strategy. Many were upset, including my late uncle, Justice Ephraim Akpata, who could not understand how we could ever not go to court. But at that point in time, we had to make that decision. And we're the better off for it. And we went back to litigation about 10 years later. Today, we have 3 senior advocates in the firm who came out of our litigation practice. That was a matter of strategy. We went back to say, okay, now we are ready to go back to litigation. So these principles that apply to business, you have to apply them to your practice. You have to understand that, like Dr. Ogbeche mentioned, knowledge is critical. We are knowledge merchants. That is what we sell. And you must be at the cutting edge of knowledge so that you can continue to be relevant. Particularly in these days when we have very sophisticated clients who have the benefit of ChatGPT and the internet, you can't fool anybody. It was the mystique. You know, we have been demystified. That's the truth. But if we are able to stay at the cusp, we will be able to reinvent ourselves. So law is a business, and we must be able to apply those principles that make businesses successful to our practice. Please remember, you can't live here the same way you came. The next thing I noted was that we need to look for niche areas. Yes, I know times are hard. If you specialize too much, you go hungry very quickly in the Nigeria that we live in. But you must keep an eye on niche areas. When we started, we firstly told ourselves we'll leave this litigation for a while, but we moved into areas that no other person had gone into. We didn't study those types of law at the University of Benin. We taught ourselves. You take electricity law, for example. We went into it because we knew that it was an area that our guys could not be bothered with. In those days, when we used to mention IPP, some senior lawyers would say, what is that? Intellectual property, what's the other P? We say, no, sir, this one, this side. Now, we are the experts in this one. We went into power. Mr. Tomi will remember when the privatization of the power sector started. We were, with him, we were the lawyers who were now advising BPE. Because there was really nobody else around who had bothered to go and delve into that area. And how do you do that? You must understand, remember we said knowledge. Not just knowledge of law. Knowledge of the economy is important. Where is your economy headed? You service an economy. You don't work in a vacuum as a lawyer. So Akajugo had mentioned, the chief of Begulu, that, commercial practice is sometimes restricted to certain places. Well, we at SBL have always preached that every city or every state in Nigeria has its own economy. So every lawyer would need to, operating wherever you're operating from, you need to check and see what are the areas that are relevant to this economy. Why would any lawyer in Onitsha be complaining? Why on earth? The amount of trade between Onitsha and China is phenomenal. Phenomenal. There's no reason for that. So you need to find out niche areas. And so once you can do that, you will be able to make progress. Now, Mr. Chairman or moderator, give me 1 second. Let me just make 2 more points. It's important that you understand the role of a rainmaker in your practice. What is a rainmaker? The one that goes out, so what they call marketer. You know, we lawyers, we will not want to call it marketer. Rainmaker is important. If the pipeline of work stops, the firm is dead. So that person or those persons must be groomed. You must check on them. You must make sure that they know that they are encouraged. So they have to go out there and look for the work. Then we have those who are very good at doing the work. They will do the work. Everybody is important. But if there's no work, no matter how many PhDs or how many cases you know, you will not get any, you go hungry. I always recommend partnerships as the preferred mode, as a business model. It may not be for everybody, but partnerships work well. You know, you leverage on strengths. It was because I was in a partnership I could walk away and go and try my hands in the murky waters of Nigerian politics without my firm, my law firm collapsing. So it's very important. And I will close by saying networking. Well, this is part of rainmaking. Your rainmaker must go about, must network. You must, chambers of commerce, Rotary Club, wherever. You must go out there, and they say we can't advertise. So you must be a walking advertisement of your law firm. You must go out there and present your firm to the world. And the time when they would come and look for you has passed, has long passed. You must be out there to present yourself to the world. And last but not the least, your work must be excellent. Your work must speak for you. Actually, your work is your advertisement. Your work must be excellent. Referrals, repeat instructions, and so on and so forth. Time is not our friend, as we know. My time has been up for a while. I just took presidential privilege. That's why I stayed for a few more minutes. But please don't go back the same way you came. We can make a success of legal practice in our own small corners. I thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ikembanala of the universe. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Olumide Akpata. There's no way I will go out of this conference the same way that I came. Thank you. He said there must be finders and grinders. But there's something he said. He talked about retreat. And I said, please, you tell us how this retreat works. So that somebody will not say, I'm going for a retreat. And go and do other things. Not deceiving himself. I don't want to say more. Sometimes, so this retreat, is this speaking in tongues? In other ways? It's not night vigil. Okay, thank you very much. Business retreat. A round of applause for Mr. Olumide Akpata. Thank you. There are times we say to ourselves, oh, I would have been like George Etomi. I would have been like Gabriel Obeche. I would have been like Olumide Akpata, and so on. It's just because I'm a woman. This my children, this pregnancy. I would have excelled in life. My husband did not allow me to. And so on, and so on. But we have also on this panel a distinguished Nigerian, deputy managing partner in a global law firm, Udo Doma. And so many things rolled into one. The chair of the section on business law of the Nigerian Bar Association, who will speak to us on breaking the glass ceiling. It actually means that a ceiling exists. It exists, whether we like it or not. But you must break it. But when you break glass ceiling, what happens to your head? You must suffer from headache, whether you like it or not. So breaking the glass ceiling, succeeding against all odds. Zofu, Latunde, Ogiemodia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, when before I left home for this conference, and I mentioned to my husband the topic. So he said something like, is there a glass ceiling? So I said something I can't say now because I'm not the only one. But I said the fact that I'm the only woman on this panel. When you see there's just one woman and there are 10 men, 5 men, it suggests that whether you want to see it or not, there is a ceiling. There's a reason why we all went to school. The class was half girls and half boys. And then when you look down the line, you see 5 men and 1 woman. So I'm not really sure I will approach this entirely from a woman's perspective. But I like the fact that the Leonard Silk referred to, why didn't you succeed? Said my husband didn't allow me to do it. So let me say a few things about being a woman. Now, before I say that, I want to correct something Uncle George said. I was not born with a silver spoon, please. Thank you. I'm a daughter of a professor. Yes, so if you know, and there are a lot of you, I've been hearing Uniben all over this place, so that was where I was born. My father was a professor in Uniben. So the only thing you get from a professor and his wife, who was a librarian, is nobody fails exam in this house. Nobody writes JAM twice. Don't come back to this house with less than a 2-1. So that's my heritage. 5 girls. And I think maybe kudos to my parents. We were raised to not, we didn't even know there was anything like limitation on women. We were raised like anybody, like boys. Now what that meant was, in addition to the fact that we had all the access to education any boy would have had, we also learned to drive before university, also learned to queue for petrol in Abacha's days. We learned to go and spend your whole Saturday in a mechanic workshop. So that's how we were raised. And then coming into work, let me just jump to when you marry. You know, that statement about my husband did not let me. Women, if you are young here, single, who you marry is very important to whether you break that ceiling. So yeah, he's fine and he likes me. It's not enough. You need to think of your future, where you're going, and whether this is the person you want to go that journey with. It's very important, especially if you want to be a woman that succeeds. Can your husband take it? Can he take it if you are shining more than him? If people know you more than him? If they know him as your husband? So, and if you marry the person that wants fresh soup every day, when are you going to close from that big law firm, Templars, that is breaking all the ceiling? When are you going to close from there? Buy the vegetable, wash it, cook it, and pound the yam. So you need to think about things like that. I'll just say, because there are some things that happen that it's as if this is how life is. It's not my fault. But some of the decisions you make, you know, when you make them, think of where you're going and make them accordingly. Okay. So I'll now turn to points that are generic. I like everything that the other speakers have said because they've emphasized the fact that you need to know the tools of your trade. Know what it is you are selling. And in law, we're selling this, our legal knowledge. I like to say that we're in a business of skill, so you need to know your law, right? But we're also in a business of attention to detail, to the details of that business you're doing. If you're a careless lawyer, if you write and there are mistakes in your work and you send it like that, and somebody else has to be picking up your errors for you, imagine, and also sometimes it might be your client, then you're not really behaving like someone that is planning to break any ceiling. So you can't be average and be breaking ceilings because there are lots of average people already. You want to excel, which means you need to put in the work to know your law and to pay attention to the nitty-gritty of the things you know. And to also pay attention to the fact that, like they said, law is a business. So apart from knowing your law, if you say, okay, I want to grow in this area so that maybe this practice area grows so that my principals will see that I am outstanding, then it means that you also need to map out your strategy and always call yourself to account. What am I doing in this area? Have I, this marketing, when last did I go and visit any clients? When last did I follow up on any leads? When last did I bring in business? So you have to keep yourself accountable. I also believe that when you're young is when you should push yourself, like work hard. Work hard in your 20s so that your 30s will be easier. Do the grunt work. And when you are single, again to the really young lawyers among us, that's the time. I mean, you are accountable to yourself. So work hard. So that by the time you get into parenthood or marriage or whatever you decide to do, you've already established some roots. You've paid some dues. You've risen a bit. You've made your life easier for yourself. So don't take it too easy. And you know, this thing about, the millennials are like this and the Gen Z, I think that for every generation, the next generation always looks lazy. So I think even to those of us that came before, I think we are Gen X, I'm Gen X. So to the people before me, we look spoiled and lazy. It always feels like that. So I don't know that there's any excuse of, they don't like to work. They don't, because you know, the profession is not going to change for anybody. You can't know all the provisions of CAMA unless you read it, all the 600 and something sections. And any other law, the PIA, unless you read it, there's no shortcut. So if you choose to make your life in this profession, there's no escaping the hard work. You just need to accept it and then embrace it and decide to just do it and be good at it. So you need to give it your best. I also think that there's a lot of merit in sticking with the path you choose. So maybe the first few years of your career, you're not sure, and you should always be flexible to recognize, okay, this is not for me, maybe I should focus on this area instead. But I do think that when you find a path, like how Uncle George said he decided to focus on commercial law, or how Mr. Akpata said they decided to start a firm. There's always a reason to give up. There will always be a time it's tough. So like I said, the work is hard. There's a lot of work. It's not easy to build a legal career. So at some point you will think of, is there not something easier I can do? And you will keep hearing stories of people that are doing something, that left practice, doing something else, and they are making all the money. Everybody always seems to be making all the money, but you, according to the gist. But you need to stick, if you've decided that this is what you're going to do, you need to stick with it. If you stick with it, you will be the one where you'll be in 10 years, in 20 years, will not be where you were when you started. But you know, that thing about time and chance, you need to give the time and let it, let the experience that comes with time and with doing something repeatedly become a part of you. So don't give up easily just because it's hard. It's hard. It was hard for everybody. But those that you look up to today are those that stuck with it. And not just for law, but any business, any line of business. I think that it's important to show up and to be willing to do the work. That certainly has worked for me. So a lot of times you find that you're in a group and maybe the work is thrown out to the group. Someone should do so. Someone should research, really give in to anybody. And there are always people in a group that are kind of dodging, pretend they didn't see it, and hope someone else picks it up. If you are in that sort of collective, be happy to step up and do the work. Because the person that keeps showing up, that keeps taking on the responsibility, that's happy to do it, not mindful of how all the other people that are chilling, but you're just focused on doing it, being helpful, what you learn from it, you will end up being the one that develops the expertise. You will end up being the one that gets noticed because you show up and you deliver. So I don't like comparing. There's a good part of comparison because you should look at what others are doing and challenge yourself. But don't look at what others are doing and encourage yourself in the things that are not productive. So everybody, so for instance, in my firm, I've heard this thing said before that there are certain practice groups, including mine, mergers and acquisitions and private equity, that you go to and you work hard. So when associates are choosing, some of them choose certain practice groups where the work is a bit less, the partners are a bit more chilled. I know when I hear that, I just feel, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Don't run away from hard work, because when the glory comes, it comes to you that did the hard work. It's not for anybody else. And another thing I've learned is, the experience you gain is your experience. Like, it's your property. It's yours to take with you. It goes with you wherever you go. So even if you left that job and went somewhere else, you've gained that experience. Nobody can ever, they can't say you've resigned, drop the experience and go empty. You can't. It's yours. It's an intricate part of you. So every time you pick up the slack, every time you show up, every time you raise up your hand and say, I will do it, and you're the only one doing it, keep doing it. Because it will show up for you at the end of the day, all the effort you've put in. I think the last thing, there's another thing. Hurry slowly. So I think young people are always in a hurry. You want to succeed on time. You want to be rich as soon as possible. You just want to be a success already. But in that hurry, don't be too much in a hurry. And I've said it before, like, take the time to build your skill. Take the time to learn. Be humble enough to learn. Yes, we are all learned, we are all this, we are all that, but the truth is, if you're humble, you will take feedback, you will take correction, and then you will grow steadily, but eventually you look back and then you won't realize when you became the person that was so confident enough to make a presentation on this topic by yourself, or to take this call with this client by yourself, or to draft these agreements, or draft this policy, all those things that seemed like you couldn't do them before. You're now able to do them because you took your time and you just let yourself grow steadily but surely. I think the last thing I will say is have balance in your life. Don't only work and don't only play. There should be different aspects of your life you keep, so that when the work is where you're swamped, then you have outlets for tension. I've seen people that they're so into the work, they work so hard, they are constantly in a state of having something to prove, and they're so uptight. It makes it difficult for others. Everything is just hard and difficult. And I think it's because when you don't let yourself let off steam. So there are productive ways to let off steam. I'll give you an example. When I read law because my parents said read law. I wanted to be a fashion designer. My parents did not think it was something you say, this is what I want to do. So they said, just read law and just see how it goes. So by the time I read it, I chose to stick with it. But I have always kept my sewing machine till today. I probably used it on Sunday. What's today? Tuesday, yes. I used it on Sunday. I used it on Saturday. It is the one thing I do that I just don't feel like I use mental energy, so my brain is at rest, and I love it. So find the things you do that balance your life out, both in activities and in relationships, and just, have balance in your life. Because if you are so strung up in work, you end up being negative, both for yourself and for the team that you are working with. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Our chair, he says, your hard work with humility will deliver you. She also says, but I got confused at some point. He said you must let off steam. So I was now listening to know how she relaxes. And she says, from working in the office to sewing machine, all of them not be work. So well, we understand it. Thank you very much. Thank you. To relax your brain. Our next speaker, we know him so well. He's known for so many things. Partner in Law Crest, law firm in Lagos, energy, commercial practice, and so on. But there's something you know about Tobina. First of all, every lawyer in Nigeria and outside Nigeria became interested in knowing who is this young man when he became the chair of the NBA Institute of Continuing Legal Education. It was as if that ICLE was never there before. He revolutionized it. And so many other things. Today, he will speak to us how on charting your career course, navigating life, priorities, and professional growth as a young lawyer. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, let us make welcome our friend and brother, next speaker, Mr. Tobina Erochikwe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Leonard Silk. You know, when you have a friend like Andy and you're talking, it's difficult for him to hear what you're saying. I've always told people that nobody should line me up behind Uncle George and Oluwabata. They now added Dr. Boeche and Ozofu. What do you want me to do? It's better that I go and sit down now because they've said it all. So I decided to stand up to address everybody. So if there's nothing else you remember, just remember that one that stood up to address you guys. As Oluwabata said, don't leave here the same. So Rex, are you there? Can you just quickly put up my first slide? The first slide on my presentation. That's the only one I want. Not where I have my name alone, but where I have animals. You know, like giraffe and lion and cheetah and elephant. So we can play a game very quickly. By the way, when I was asked to speak to everyone today, I sought to know from the Leonard Silk Andy what the platform was going to be like, who the audience was going to be. Because oftentimes I find that we talk to people and never really engage them. And I understood that about 240 young lawyers from different branches, 340, from different branches across Nigeria were going to be here today. And I find that exciting, I find it remarkable. But most importantly, Andy, I think that we must find a way to evaluate the impact of what we're doing. I asked for the email addresses of all those that they had, and about 240 people, they sent about 240 emails to me. Those who are amongst those 240, can they stand up? Can you guys stand up if you're on that list? All of you. All of you. All of you. Some people are reluctant to stand up. Do you know the next game I'm going to play? Stand up now. So out of 244 or so that I got, I wrote to every one of you. I asked specific questions because I wanted to know who you are. I only got back 50 responses. It's about 190 something that did not respond. Those that responded, can they just put up their hands? Those ones will go to heaven. Oh. And definitely, I mean, I would have done some sort of interplay. This guy's move here, the other guy's move here. But everybody that responded, you're definitely going to get a prize from me. You know, it's not money. Oh. Anyway, just to underscore the conversation we've had around the panel. Can you guys see the animals over there? So which of them do you think is the tallest of them all? Which one? Giraffe? Strongest? What? No, now. Can lion be more stronger than elephant? Eh? Which one? Elephant. Okay. Then, which one is the fastest? The giraffe. No, cheetah. Good. But the key question, who is the king of the jungle? And why is the lion the king of the jungle? Does anybody know? Well, there's not a lot of time, so I'll answer. The lion is the most strategic of them all. So when, I went to University of Nigeria and Nsukka, when they call us great lions, it's because we are more strategic than everybody. Yeah? So, but I think the topic I've been given to speak on today is about evaluating your career prospects more or less. Where are you going in your career? And so I adopted this methodology of writing to everybody, and I asked some very key questions. What is your station in life? What are your priorities? What are your challenges? What are your plans? And, even though I don't have a lot of time, I think it will help if I just read quickly, very quickly, one of the responses that I got. And this response reminds me of a young man who worked with Uncle George, later on became a mentee to myself and to Olu Akpata. A guy, young man called, and I call his name because he's written about this. Many years ago, we were doing an oil and gas conference. I'd just come back from working in England. And we asked people to apply for a position. And the boy's application was so phenomenal in its content that I made a mental note without knowing that I knew of his name. Many years later, one of my associates in my firm came to me and said that someone wanted to meet me. And he called the name of the guy. I said, I'm happy to meet him right now because I remember that chap. He wrote this letter. That later on, I was asked to nominate a young lawyer to be chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, and I nominated that gentleman. And he was chairman of Young Lawyers Forum from Paul Osoro to Olu Akpata, a guy called Toby Adebowale. And in fact, he got tired of being chairman of Young Lawyers. That's the kind of impression you make. So very quickly, this person says, and it's a lady, by the way, I'm sure she's catching a lot of ceilings. What is your current situation in life, personal and career? I'm a young lawyer, 6 years post-call, with a strong foundation in litigation. Personally, I am at a stage where I am establishing my career foundation and exploring opportunities for growth and development. I'm eager to leverage my skills and experience to make a meaningful impact in the legal profession. Currently, I am the YLF chairman of a branch in Eastern Nigeria, so that nobody knows who I'm talking about if she doesn't want to be known. And I'm working towards contributing to being an agent of young lawyers by bringing meaningful and advanced knowledge that will help in young lawyers' career growth and development. Then I say, what is your priority? My priority is to expand my skill sets and expertise beyond litigation with a focus on commercial arbitration, business law, and finance, as well as finding a mentor in those fields that will guide me through my career growth and development. With respect to expanding my scope in business and finance, I have started my ICANN journey, which I am now, I am in the second level now. To fit into the business, finance, and law space, I also desire to hone my own expertise in tax law and aim to become certified with CITN in no distant time. I believe this will enhance my career prospects and enable me to make a more significant contribution to the legal profession. What career problems, challenges? One of my biggest challenges is navigating the transition from a litigation-focused practice to a more diverse career path and incorporate business law and finance, tax law, and arbitration. Currently, I am in a law firm or city that is known for its litigation-focused practice, which poses a challenge to me to gain practical experience and build connections in the career path that incorporates business law and finance, tax law, and arbitration. I'm seeking guidance on how to bridge the gap and create opportunities for myself. Also, another challenge that I have is that I get discouraged by some colleagues that the kind of practice will not thrive in the state I am currently practicing. And this notion, which may seem true relatively, does not sit well with me. Now, let me not go to the very end, but I found this quite illuminating, and I think that I don't know where you are, but do please meet me at the end of this session. I undertake to mentor you. I undertake to go with you on the journey to realize your objectives. But I read what you wrote because I think it shows purpose, it shows strategy, it shows resilience, it shows determination, it shows all those things that you need to succeed in life. And this individual is not daunted by the fact that there are only certain cities where certain specializations exist. And I'm excited very much about it. Now, in the analysis that we did around the questions we asked, we had about 24 people who identified mentorship as an issue. The second, in fact, the highest, the biggest problem that the young lawyers identified was finance and remuneration. Emeko Begulu just left. He's the chairman of the remuneration committee. Find his email and tell him they have unfinished work in that area for young lawyers. But the one that I'm keen about is the mentorship that you all talked about. So what we will do practically is those 24 people, again, will reach out to you, will speak with you, and will link you up to mentors across Nigeria in that space. For the rest of the 50 who did not identify mentorship but had other problems, in the next 2 weeks you will get a call from me discussing your responses, looking at those challenges, and seeing how we can help to take your ideas and your progress further afield. So basically, very quickly, what I found from the analysis is that it's what it is, and you have to understand it. Very difficult environment for any young lawyer to practice in Nigeria today. But it's not just Nigeria, it is the world that is so dynamic, that is changing every day, every minute. You will be confronted by globalization, by liberalization, by financial issues, by just the sheer number of lawyers that are graduated in Nigeria. Chief Emeka Nge just left. It would have been good to tell him that this is the feedback we get. If we graduate 6,000 lawyers every day, we are going nowhere. We have to change that. And when people talk about mentorship, I would have wanted a more engaging session where I asked, what exactly do you mean by mentorship? Uncle George talked about his mentor, Chief Chris Ogubanjo, great man, great mentor to many. But indeed, it was a unique kind of mentorship, or a different kind of mentorship. It's not really, it's what you would like to have, but perhaps may never get, because society has moved on. What he had was a pupillage type of mentorship, where he was actually working and learning every day. And he identified mostly the things that he saw, not even what he was told, even though he emphasized some of the things that he was told. So one of the things that you could do for yourself in being strategic and deliberate is to find that kind of firm you want to work in. Find that environment that you think suits you, and try to pick on the things that are done there every day. The second type of mentorship that I hope that we will be able to advance and drive even in our personal capacity is that mentorship that brings you in contact with people who you may not necessarily have everyday contact with, but you will end up picking up things from them. But I also encourage you, even when you don't have the advantage of seeing Uncle George every day, read about him. Uncle George is very tech savvy. He's always there in the news. So read about him. What's he doing? What's he thinking? How do I get across to him? Use technology. Use LinkedIn. And what I found most disappointing about the 190-something who did not respond is, where are you going to go without technology? One of the young guys in the room called me from Port Harcourt and said, are you going to be in Asaba? I said, yes, I'm going to be in Asaba. Oh, I'm on the delegate list. Did you get my email? This was like 6 days after the email went. He said, let me check, sir. He went down, came back. Oh, I just got it. Can I respond? I said, you're late, but respond. But the truth of the matter is, think about it. technology, one of the greatest disruptors in this world today, and you haven't read your email in 6 days, something shameful about it. So if you want to get to where you want to get to, there are simple things that you must do, simple things that you must imbibe, and some of those things are attitudinal. Now, to get to any point, personal, business, anything, you must have goals. And that's why I asked, what is your plan? If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. It's as simple as that. So, and I say to people, the one thing in life that you have to work from, the answer to the question, is your career objective, your final destination. I want to be a judge. How do I get there? I want to be a senior advocate. How do I get there? I want to get into leadership. How do I get there? And you know, when someone says to you, what is your personal situation? Everybody's personal situation is different. What you hear growing up, like Ozofu was being told, you know, you have to read law. You have to make it 2-1. I reckon my parents presumed I knew what to do. But I had uncles that said, oh, you know, once you finish, it's a family tradition, you have to go abroad. You have to school there. You have to work there. You have to get international exposure. So you're in the university and everybody seems the same. Once you walk out of the gate, your reality becomes different. And so I tell you this, self-mastery when you're setting your goals, consistent re-evaluation of your goals all the time, and reinventing yourself to suit the times. Olu said something remarkable when he talked about what they did, which was quite aggressive and innovative, which was look at the areas that others were not looking at. But yours is even more interesting because every day the world is changing. The younger generation are the ones who are more adept or ought to be more adept with. Andy, did you just stop me? Okay. Okay, so, I mean, I will conclude by just saying that it's important that you remember that what we are selling is an intangible good. So making an impression is critical. The way you write, the way you speak, choosing to stand up because Oludem sat down, yeah? All those things are things that are critical. If the day a decision is made about you, remember, you're never in the room, no matter who you are. God bless you all.
Bias B. Thank you so much. You know, Tobe Nerojiko is my classmate from the university to law school, so I know him very well. I know that if I did not stop him, we would not live here all night. But the remarkable thing about him is he will not repeat a sentence. He will make more points. A round of applause to him. Thank you. So, one of the ceilings we have in life, we suffer from as a young lawyer, even mid-age lawyers and old lawyers, is every day you're on the internet, you see great people, you read them in the newspapers, you watch them on television, and you'll be asking yourself, how can I be like this person? That's like you're saying, how can I meet this person? How can this person mentor me? I bring you good news. Those are the people you have been seeing since yesterday. You didn't need to fly to Lagos. You need to fly to Abuja. You need to travel outside the country. You are seeing them. Please, do with them what your dreams have always been. You are looking for mentors. They are here. Take their numbers. Introduce yourself. Please. This is what I do. There's no magic in it. I say, how are you able to achieve this and that? This exactly. So, this is the time for interactive session. ask all the questions you want to ask. What the session coordinators will do, and the distinguished speakers, to note the questions. They will also speak in turns, beginning from Uncle George, who spoke first. Please ask your question, all those questions that have been disturbing you. Now, we also have some of the icons here. When you have answers to questions, please note the answers. When it comes to you, speak to us. This is what we need. This session is for us. Now, a round of applause to myself. Thank you. Yes. So we start from the first row to my left. The first row seat to my left. If anybody has any question at all, how do I succeed? What am I not doing properly? How do I become a billionaire in this practice? And all of them, please. You raise your hand, you take microphone, we have to. Yes, Precious, kindly use this mic. Hello? Okay, thank you. Please, 1 minute to ask your question. 1 minute. Don't worry, from this session, we go to dinner straight. The food court. From the dinner, we come back to this hall for party till tomorrow morning. So you don't need to be in a hurry at all. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you very much, Leonard.
Introduce yourself and then ask you.
My name is Theophilus Umoru. My question is this. In a situation where some of us who, when we were in law school, IPO to us meant initial public offer. But by the time we came into practice, IPO now became investigating police officer. And all the dreams we had about, corporate law and all the rest, vanished for a while because we were forced to survive. How does one navigate this journey of, wanting to move into a niche area, usually in commercial law, and at the same time, not die of starvation because litigation and all the rest takes most of your time? Thank you.
Yes, please keep going down. There's another man. Give him a microphone. How do you migrate to your dreamed niche area without dying of starvation?
Thank you, Leonard Sik. My name is Obaga. From the first session to the last one right now, we've been encouraged to get ourselves highly skilled in a specific area of practice. But then, Mr. President, Olumido Akpata have said that law is itself a business. But the problem is not getting highly skilled. How do you get the client? For example, big cities like Abuja, Port Harcourt, Lagos, it is very difficult for young lawyers to break into the four walls where those clients are. The big players, like all the panelists right here, including Mr. Chairman, the Leonard Sik, seems to lock up this room where these clients are.
Glass ceiling.
And I don't know what they do with the key, but it is very, very difficult for young lawyers to break into the realm of client retainership. What is the way and how do we easily assess this realm of client retainership? Because that is where we can test our skill and then benefit from this skill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are saying, how do I take Olumide Akpata's client? That's what you are saying. How do I steal his client? Okay. Go to the next person.
I have a question for Mrs. Gemodia. You were talking about women and how we succeed even when we are in marriage. Please, Please, I would like to ask, if you are married to a man that is not even encouraging you, draining you, and you have the passion to work hard in the legal profession, and you want to get there, what do you do? Should you pull out or you stay? I want to know.
Very important question. Very important question. Should I pull out or I stay? Or I kill him? Yes, go to the next person. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mrs. P.I. Uviegara, Chief Magistrate from O2 Jeremy. So, but I came into this place, into this session. I actually appreciate all the discussants, as in every topic that have been discussed so far. But my question is that I find that they're always hinting on young lawyers, and I'm not a young lawyer. So what am I doing in this place? Thank you.
Your worship, thank you very much. It will be answered. Yes, who is next? Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Please, I've resolved not to live here the way I came in. But the question I have is, having stayed from this program since yesterday till today, can I confidently go home with all I have learned, saying that I've been trained on these topics and what have you done here? That's number one. Or do I need other training to make me a perfectionist on this? Another question I want to ask is, for me to practicalize what I have learned here, is there any platform that will enable me to practice this thing, to make sure that I have now been trained on those things that have been lectured here? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very germane. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, sirs. Thank you very much for this section. I learned a lot of things from here. And my question has already been addressed from the email that Mr. Tobena read. But I also noted that I wasn't sent an email. I'm a young lawyer. My name is Stella Pra, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. So I also want to be beneficiary of the mentorship, and I would like to be added on the group. Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stella. Yes? Two more.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Egbe Ezekiel. I'm a young lawyer. Now, my question borders on mentorship. I'm very well informed about the importance of mentorship in the life of young lawyers. Now, my question is to the panelists: how do you what is your expectations from your proteges? If you would agree to mentor someone, how do you want to be approached? What is your expectations from protege? How do you want us to maintain the relationship as proteges? And how can we put ourselves in the best behavior to be able to manage our position as protege and communicate honor properly to you as a mentor for our relationship to thrive? Thank you very much.
Yes?
Okay.
The hand at the back. Okay, yes.
Yeah,
right
okay.
now. Quickly, quickly.
Good evening,
please.
sir. I'm Good Luck, David. All right, my question borders on some novel areas about law. I've discovered companies advertising positions for legal HRO, human resource managers, business development managers that are also lawyers. So they want to have a lawyer serving in those two positions I've mentioned. What is the implication being a legal practitioner at the same time serving as a company human resource manager or a business development manager? Does it hamper the practice of law in any way?
Thank you. Please go to the back. Go to the back now. Yes?
Good evening, everyone.
My name is Ikiona Ezekiel, and I want to ask a question in regards to keeping the relationships with our mentors or trying to sever the relationship in a peaceful way. Now, we know that we may not be very learned in those areas, but in time where we have already made mistakes and probably severed certain relationships in a way that is not palatable, how do we restore such relationships? That is what I want to ask about.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Amarachi Anthony from the Oji River branch. My question is, how we know that all young lawyers, or most young lawyers, we begin our legal practice with litigation, especially in some states that don't have, let me use the word in quotes, big firms. And unfortunately, litigation can be a bit frustrating. It can be a bit depressing, if I would say, mostly due to remuneration, but still. My question is, how do we ensure that we don't become so frustrated as to leave the legal practice? Because I know most of my mates, because of litigation, they stopped. They are just bearing Esquire in their name. They decided to go into other business ventures because they felt frustrated. So I'm asking, how do we still remain motivated to remain in law until we break through that glass ceiling? Thank you very much.
So bring the microphones back.
Leonard Silk, my hand has been up. They gave me the mic.
Bring the other mic back, yes?
Thank you, Leonard Silk. My name is Alpha Nwoko, and I'm from the Young Lawyers Forum Port Harcourt branch. My question has two legs. One standing on Dr. Gabriel Ogbeche and the other one on former President Akpata. So, to Dr. Gabriel Ogbeche, you spoke about keeping your capital, preserving your capital while you are running your business. And I'd like to take you back to when you started. You know that when you started, you didn't have a lot of money. You had to save up a capital to start your business.
Leave Gabriel Ogbeche.
At the point where you start your business and you are working with your capital and you have to survive at this point of your stage, how do you manage what you earn vis-a-vis your necessities in life, because you have to live for that business to live? Two, President Olubide Akpata, when you talked about networking, that it's important to network and you have to go out and do the networking and tell about your business so that you can grow. Now, we do not want to take your clients, but when you started like us, where do we start from? And when we get into these places, who are these people? Do we have a niche of clients that we should look out for? And when we start to build these clients, how do we manage them and sustain them and continue to break even? Because even now, at where you are, you take even the ones that are under and above, and even the ones who were not in your niche when you started. So how do we start from this ground and break even and maintain these clients? Thank you very much, sir.
In other words, you need a confession. Okay. Business secrets. Thank you. So, now you also have a platform where you can post your questions to, and answers will be provided subsequently. So I will give the microphone to each of the speakers, address the point, just briefly, and any other thing you want to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to address 2 points very quickly. One, it's about what sort of latitude do you have before you decide on areas of specialization. As a rule of thumb, I'll say from the first 5 years, try and do everything. Litigation, company secretariat, legal advisory, try and do everything. If you work in a firm where they offer all these, it's even better because then you can do it in a structured manner. But if you don't, you're not even at liberty to reject any brief. Then between 6 and 10 years, you should begin to do what I call broad specialization. You should begin to drop those areas where you either don't have the skills or you don't have the interest. So you can begin to look into those areas that you feel attracted to. Now, from 10 years and above, you should have a clear idea where you can specialize in, and you begin to follow that path. The truth is that the future of law is in specialization. If you do not begin to lay the foundation for that, you may find after 10 years of practice, you are still in the wilderness. The second question has to do with how you manage relationships. And when you burn the bridge, how do you get back? I just reiterate, it is so important because as sure as night succeeds day, day succeeds night, the younger ones will take over from the older ones. You will be mentored. You will ride on somebody else's back to get to where you are. My admonition to you is that manage that relationship. Don't suddenly become big and then you begin to deride the source from where you gained the knowledge. Or you begin to be, let me say, exhibit objectionable conduct, because you can never tell how far you get. I know of young people who left firms in very sour circumstances, only to find out that the grass wasn't as green as they thought it was on the other side, and it started trying to plot their way back. Now, and that plotting their way back is the question the young lady asked: how do I do that? That's the human element. It depends on how you misbehaved. If it was in very egregious circumstances, it may be very tough to find your way back. But if you're lucky, you cross the path of someone who has a very forgiving spirit, who has a very large heart, they may give you a second chance. I have had lawyers we trained, and I'm not talking about just training, we sent to go and do their masters, Harvard, big schools, fully funded, and never came back. There were some we sent on cross postings to firms abroad, 12 months, never came back. But guess what? When they were going to get some big positions, they were asked to get references from their previous employees. Your guess is as good as mine how those responses would have been. In some cases, you forgive and move on. In other cases, you're obliged to tell the truth. Because any new boss you work for is also looking for one critical element in your life: loyalty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me start by dealing with a very specific question. The gentleman who talked about capital. I don't want to say whether I was misquoted or not. When in the issue of capital, I think I spoke on it twice. One, that knowledge is more important than capital. Let knowledge prioritize knowledge over capital. And then the second one is that you should keep your earnings in your business. But having said that, protect your capital. Protect your capital doesn't mean don't touch your capital. Protect your capital, because your capital is actually your employer. When you lose your capital, you've lost your job. You know, when you're in paid employment and a firm is paying you, say, 500,000 naira every month, the day you leave that job and start your own business, your employer is actually the capital you have. The day you lose it, you've lost the job. So you must protect your capital with everything you have. You know, which is why, you know, I admire my brothers from, you know, across the Niger. You go to a man's shop. In that shop, he may have wares worth 50 million naira, but he lives in that shop because he does not joke with his capital. Everything he has, he protects it. But coming to your very specific question, when you start out, especially for entrepreneurs who start from the, you know, from first principles, let me call it that way. When you start, everything you have, you put in the business. So, but you have to survive as a person. So, you take only the money you need to meet your basic needs: feeding, house rent, transportation. Because at that point, savings is not an issue for you. Everything you're making, you're plowing back into the business. So it's not like, oh, I've made money, let me go and put this one aside. No, your life is about that business. The other one I want to talk about, I think somebody broached it, is the issue of, you know, relationships. One of the speakers also broached that issue. When you're starting out, you must invest in yourself. You must invest in your network. If you want to be a very successful lawyer starting out, don't joke with relationships. Because at the end of the day, people do businesses with people they know. Most of the briefs, and you can test it, most of the briefs you will get at this level, you will get the briefs from people who know you. You can be the smartest lawyer in Onitsha. You can make first class from Harvard. You can have a PhD from the best law schools in this world. A client in Lagos who doesn't know you is very unlikely to give you a brief. So wherever you are, network. Join the tennis club, join the golf club, join the Rotary club. Go to places where you can interact with people and you can introduce yourself and people can say, this is what you do. Until you get to a point where you are working for Templars or you become Udo Udoma. Madam, what's the name of your firm? Udo Udoma Bello Osage. You know, you become a nationally, if not an internationally known, reputable firm, and briefs can begin to come through the door just on the name of your, on the basis of your reputation. But for now, don't toy with the idea of investing in yourself and growing your network. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I don't think it is necessary to go over what Dr. Gweche and Mr. Itumi have said. But for his worship, he mentioned that she's not a young lawyer. What is she here for? I think everybody here has taken one thing or the other this evening. Past Presidents Mr. Akpata and Mr. Erojikwe mentioned that don't leave the same way you came. When we talk about mentorship, find a mentor. The truth is, even at your level, you need a mentor. And I think even our mentors sometimes have mentors. Mr. Etomi still refers to Chief Chris Ogumbanjo. If he was still alive, I'm sure he would still be his mentee. So there's something for everyone to take away. And I think it is in the fact that we've listened to all these things and we can find our place. Thank you.
I think the only question that was directed to me was the one about an unsupportive spouse. I'm not a marriage counselor, but I'll say this. You know, when I mentioned about your spouse, I said before you marry, think about where you want to go. Don't just be, you know, caught up in the emotions, because it's actually very important who you go with, because you're kind of stuck. If you're the type that usually for religious reasons you don't want to break your marriage, then you're stuck for life, and it's difficult when you feel stuck to somebody that you find wasn't the best fit for you. So, like I said again, marriage is, it's for most people, for religious reasons, especially here, it's not something you just say, the person doesn't support you, live there. I'm far be it from me to tell anybody what to do, but if it's a difficult situation like other difficult situations, I would say you should handle it prayerfully. There is nothing that cannot change under this sun. And with wisdom. And if you're determined to stay there, then I think you will find ways to walk around it. And if it means there will be, I think even for those of us that feel we have supportive spouses, there are times when you have to choose your personal over your professional. There are times when you need to get home on time, where you have to make time to go to your kids' school, where you have to be there for your spouse, where you have to make sure there's food in the house. So there are things you have to do. And then there are other times when your work, maybe you just have this crushing deadline, and you didn't know at the start of the day you'll be in the office till late, but it happens. So you just always try to balance it. Beyond that, I don't know that it's appropriate to say more, but I'm happy to see you privately. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard Silk, Mr. Moderator. A couple of questions were directed at me. Theophilus Umoru, I think. My brother, whichever IPO you are confronting at this stage in your career, just handle that matter with the best of your ability. Many of us, we used to hang around A Division in Warri many years ago. So do not despise days of little beginnings. Just do it well, right? You are interested in the capital markets, get knowledge. IPO, private placement, get knowledge. And find ways of exhibiting that knowledge. I had mentioned networking. Dr. Ogbechi had mentioned it. I don't know where you practice, but are you in Benin? Benin, right? Okay. So I don't know which you belong to, recreational club, wherever you go. You write articles. Make sure that you are passing on the information. You'll be surprised that many people in Benin don't even know what that other IPO means. They too only know the one in the police station. You know, you may be able to, in the process, exhibit and let everybody know that you are an expert in this field or a budding expert in this field. The opportunity will show up at one point in time. When we started trying to study electricity law, everybody thought, what are you doing? The only thing that everybody was bothered about is NEPA bill too high. Nobody recognized that there was so much to do in that space. The opportunity eventually presented itself to us so no knowledge is wasted. So I hear you, I understand, but whatever it is you find your hand to do at this point in time, do it well, and your work will speak for you, and you will find other opportunities. So don't give up on your interest in capital markets. You're in Benin today, you might move to another city tomorrow, you might, so that's my point. The gentleman who wants to steal my clients, is it Basil? Basil. It's okay. Nothing new under the sun. Some of us, I didn't say that. But tell you what, you must go out there. The worst you can hear is no. We already have a lawyer. You must go out there. We printed our cards. I had my business cards. One sack. Anywhere you go, you will find, for us, when we were younger, we will go for the new companies, the new people coming into Nigeria. The guy, the country manager, Rotimi Williams, he didn't know who Rotimi Williams was. He didn't know who G.O.K. Ajayi was. All is, you see, particularly the foreign investor, once you can talk to him about tax and that space, a lot of people will need your, all of you here, please don't ignore tax. The client is very interested in how you can protect them in that way. So I think that also segues into the question from the gentleman on this side who asked two questions, one leg on Dr. leg on me. How do you get those clients? You have to go out there. So I don't know if you're in Asaba, right? Or where you practice. Port Harcourt. You are in Port Harcourt. We ran a training in Port Harcourt recently. NLNG sitting there with you. The General Counsel of NLNG said to us when Tobina was chairman of ICLE that they don't see the local lawyers. They want to cut costs. Do you think they want to bring lawyers from Lagos every time? There are issues that you can deal with. So my own is that, have you found out, for example, the guy who is in charge of NLNG, he doesn't even have to be general counsel. One lawyer below the general counsel. Find a member of Port Harcourt Club, go there, find out. Like Dr. Ogbeche said, it is the person they know. First port of call or point of call is the person they know. So that is why networking is important. You are going to find, many of us are on our way out, right? In those days, my classmates from law school were not general counsel, they were assistant legal officer. In fact, now my classmates are not even general counsel anymore, they are retiring. Your classmates are there.
Nigeria to Asaba. Please, a round of applause to them. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. They can plan the annual general conference. They can plan international conferences. They have not slept for days, planning, sourcing for funds, and everything. They have not slept. And also, someone was praying that the rain will not fall. She has been speaking in tongues. So thank you. Please, Sheila, one of us, this is the outcome of our work. This decoration you are seeing. One of us catered these beautiful meals that you have had. And branding from one of us also. Where is others? Please, a round of applause to them. God bless you. Please take it. Yeah, group photograph. Thank you.
The NBA SBL National Conference on Construction and Infrastructure Projects. The conference theme was organized with the theme, Making Construction and Infrastructure Projects Work Better. The aim of the conference is to enhance the efficiency, effectiveness, availability, and sustainability of the construction and infrastructure development in Nigeria. The discussions focused on fostering innovation, collaboration, and knowledge sharing among stakeholders to drive sectorial growth and national progress. The challenges identified during the conference in the construction and infrastructure sector include a severe housing deficit, high construction costs due to inflation and import tariffs, project execution delays, lack of funding, limited access to mortgage financing, stringent bank loan requirements, and poor infrastructure. In the last quarter of 2024, the construction and infrastructure sector contributed 11.79% to Nigeria's nominal GDP, reflecting an improvement from 10.16% in the fourth quarter of 2023. Projections indicate an annual increase of 3.1% between 2025 and 2027. However, this growth still falls short of the international GDP benchmark set at 70%, with Nigeria facing an estimated 100 to 150 billion infrastructure deficit. The World Bank estimates this deficit at $3 trillion. Recognizes these challenges, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda prioritizes infrastructure and transportation as enablers of economic growth. This aligns with the goals of Nigeria's Agenda 2050 and the National Development Plan NDP 2021 to 2025. To achieve the desired growth, it is crucial to streamline dispute resolution mechanisms, continuously review the legal and regulatory frameworks, share actionable strategies for improvement, and enhance the ease of doing business to boost investor confidence. Participants at this conference included representatives from the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law, the Nigerian Bar Association, private law firms involved in construction law, government agencies including regulators such as the Bureau of Public Procurement and the Standards Organization of Nigeria, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, the National Society of Engineers, Builders Society of Nigeria, Institute of Town Planners, the Property World African Network, Realtors, the Building Collapse Prevention Guild, and Advocacy Pressure Group, private sector investors, and other stakeholders. Key resolutions and recommendations. Based on the discussions, plenary sessions, and interactive question and answer sessions, the following key resolutions were adopted. 1. Facilitate dialogue and knowledge sharing to establish a legal and administrative framework for the construction and infrastructure sector. 2. Promote cost-effective, high-quality, and sustainable construction projects that have transformative effects on Nigeria's infrastructure development. 3. Examine procurement processes and explore public-private partnerships initiatives to attract investors and ensure economic, ecological, and transformative impacts in the sector. 4. Engage in reforms of federal and state laws regulating the construction sector, such as the Public Procurement Act, the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission Act, the Land Use Act, Urban and Regional Planning Act / laws, Environmental Impact Assessment Act, the National Building Code, and the Arbitration and Mediation Act. 5. Ensure accountability for failed construction and infrastructure projects by identifying and sanctioning professionals or contractors responsible for poor quality work. Administrative, civil, and criminal sanctions should be enforced where necessary. Encourage interagency and professional collaboration to improve the efficiency and transparency of project execution. Call to action. 1. We call for government intervention. The government, as a matter of urgency, must prioritize infrastructure development, ensuring adherence to professional standards and regulations. Professional accountability. Professional bodies should sanction erring members who violate construction standards and protocols. 3. Public-private partnerships. the government should fast-track incentives for private investors to attract funding and ensure the completion of infrastructure projects. 4. Legal practitioners' role. Lawyers involved in construction law should ensure the inclusion of specific contractual clauses that protect project viability and ensure completion. 5. Capacity development. Collaboration between regulatory agencies and construction and infrastructural management. 6. Tailored contract forms. Rather than relying on generic contract templates, stakeholders should adopt bespoke contracts specifically